A month from today, and this here video will be 4 years old, folks, which even predates the start of my YouTube career. But from our first encounter with the warm worm to our latest one today, there is a fact that has stayed true. She is still the easiest boss in the entire freaking game. That said, she herself has changed a bit, and our knowledge has grown over the years, of course, so it's time for a bit of a revisit hot off the editing bay. And be prepared to be hot all day, as it's not like she's changed her place of residence or anything. The Oasis Desert is still our destination if and when we decide to interact with this thing. However, we can go deeper still. For you see, the biome itself is hiding the secrets. The premature location of its big bad boss. In and around this desert will be 3 dots of turfless tiles that will actually indicate Antlion spawn. And while it isn't always clear as the last shot, I don't think anyone is going to have any trouble noticing this special set piece now that you've seen it and heard about it today. It's neat stuff, and we can anticipate her popping out from the center of it come summertime, of course. If the world is welcoming to her, that is. Rain itself and a wet world overall will actually negate Antlion spawn entirely, which can now be overly abused quite easily with Wickerbottom's Rain ritual book, mind you. Heck, the novelty novel even stops the sandstorm entirely, which also just so happens to correspond with Antlion's initial spawn. No sandstorm, no Antlion. Yes, sandstorm, yes, the bad mobility, and plenty more. Which leads us to the next segment here, the early preparation for the fight with the help of the now filled Oasis Lake and a fishing rod. We are going to want to move around well enough during this fight, and desert goggles or astroggles are our only options here. The latter being much harder to get. The former is easier than ever to fish out of the Oasis Lake 2 due to another 2022 update, so just stick with that, yes? While you're here though, I wouldn't say no to attempting to fish out a crumbled package containing a special beach toy trinket, as you're gonna thank me later. I imagine you'll also be quite thankful for the appeasement mechanics behind this thing, as sometimes fighting isn't an option. From the moment it spawns, Antlion has an initial enraged timer of just over 4 days, and if said timer is allowed to deplete itself, we could be in a world of hurt. Antlion is able to target several players at once with these sinkhole things that will give us fair warning before they open up, sure, but if you don't skedaddle quick enough, you'll not only take 30 damage if hit, but your structures are going to shatter too. Not only that though, the sinkholes themselves can remain for over 30 days before disappearing, cannot be built over or repaired at all, and even slow us down, as you can see. Yup, they're not great, but it's also not the only thing to be mindful of at the end of the day. Players that are underground during an Antlion Enrage phase will experience a unique cave-in that sees tons of boulders falling on their positions. And yes, they do hurt if they hit ya. They can also be mined or carried on our backs, which means they can't be brought to the surface as well, so there you go. And yes, with each Enrage not appeased, her timer will decrease, making late summers eventful if you catch my drift. But there is a limit going both ways. It won't really drop far beyond 1 day, and it won't go above 6 days. Well, let's talk about appeasing this beast, shall we? She will accept all sorts of rocky tribute, like cutstone, rocks themselves of course, and even some properly cooled thermal stones, all of which will increase this timer by a wee bit. Obviously, there are better and more efficient options out there to choose from, as seen here. But if you're curious about those thermal mechanics I mentioned, only tempered temperature ones will work for appeasement, as fully cooled or warm ones will actually start the fight, which might not be what you want at that point in time. Make notes. But as for the trinket tribute side of things, know that pretty much all of them will result in the Antlion puking out what are known as desert stones, which will go into a new craft here in a minute, and plenty more. And I say most trinkets, as remember that beach toy I mentioned? Yeah, give that to Antlion, and she will be oh so pleased as to provide us with 2 blueprints nowadays. One for the lazy deserter, as she always has, but now we will also get the turf razor helm too. And more on that in a moment, as I've actually got to mention how I only just learned about Antlion accepting both eggs and collected dust as tribute, with the former resulting in desert stones too, even though eggs are not a trinket. And this is exactly why we revisit and update guides, folks, because even I learn new things. But yes, the loot. Loot that doesn't even have to come from violence, believe it or not. Costing 5 beefalo fur, 3 pigskin, and 1 desert stone, the Turf Razor Helm offers us 400 uses while it's atop our noggin, and as it goes about automatically turfing the ground we are standing on. But do bear in mind that there is still no on and off switch, surprisingly, which might lead to an annoyance here and there. But it's still pretty fun, I suppose. The Lazy Deserter, on the other hand, has always been fun. Just as long as you have another hand, that is. For you see, the thing teleports people to another deserter when activated, but the second deserter must also be manually activated, otherwise no one is going anywhere. So if you want to use it properly, you will need at least 2 people. But never discount its ability to drain your sanity if needed, both when it's activated or held. And do you see those desert stones? They look like this because a deserter is activated. If a deserter is activated in the world, and you activate a desert stone, you will be teleported to that deserter as well. They're portable teleporters, essentially. But finally, the elusive glass castles. The sand spikes and fortifications that Antlion creates can be set on fire via a torch or otherwise to transform them into glass spikes and castles, although I would recommend doing this towards the end of the fight, or by creating some and then deaggroing her over and over and over again, otherwise she is very likely to just shatter them herself, potentially. And yes, these two can and will be able to block both mobs and bosses. Have fun, but to truly end the day comes the real fun, the fight itself. Hand over one of them properly handled thermal stones I mentioned earlier, and the bout will begin. If playing in a group of 3 or more, I would highly recommend just armoring up and holding F without much else, as you will die in seconds with that mere 6,000 health. Bring decent armor and healing, of course, but don't worry about too much else, honestly. For solos out there, however, it's all about movement, which is odd because she's a stationary boss. Moving around in a circle as best as you can to avoid the various sand spikes is what we're looking at here. Tiny adjustments are ideal, as it gives you more time to complete said circle, as her spikes fade over time themselves. However, it hardly ever pans out that perfectly, especially after she speeds things up at about half health. Even still, a bit of a quote-unquote retreat from the center is totally fine in order to find an opening and give yourself a breather, and when her castles fall, she will quickly spend a phase raising them again for a few seconds, which means easy free damage. I would count the 6 hits at the start before moving, and then 3 hits when things speed up, if that helps ya. Pick your spots wisely while spinning around her, and you should be golden. Good luck, and enjoy some foodies, trinkets, desert stones, her sketch, and those 2 blueprints we mentioned earlier as well. And oh yeah, if you want to gunpowder her, bring 22 of the things. And there you have it, everyone. A rather unexpected revisit to the Antlion of all bosses. I hope Beardo from 4 years ago can sleep a little sounder, knowing that present Beard here hooked him up with everything he missed and couldn't discuss. Thanks for watching, folks. Well wishes to all. I still believe Antlion needs our rework or 2, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.